For thousands of years, people have been shaping the natural environment for their own needs.
When we make a bargain with nature, we have to ask ourselves, are we living with our environment or are we living from our environment?
When we tap into a river by blocking its natural flow, we are harnessing its power to reap remarkable benefits. But at what cost? How can we meet our own growing needs without damaging the very environment that sustains us? Here, along the California-Oregon border, a bold project is underway. The goal, remove 4 dams built on the lower Klamath River and heal the damage done to this waterway, historically teeming with life and biodiversity.
We can think of a dam as a structure put across a river to create a barrier that backs the river water up into a reservoir, a large pool of water at a higher elevation than the elevation of the river.
Since the first dam was constructed here over 100 years ago, damage has been done to both water and land, and to the way of life of the indigenous people who've lived here for thousands of years.
When these dams were constructed in the early 20th century, they played a really important role. They literally electrified this region for the first time.
Dam projects were once championed as symbols of national progress and job creation. So why are dams built in the first place? They allow farmers to capture water from rivers to help irrigate their crops. Dam reservoirs act as a safety net, capturing excess water and releasing it gradually, which helps prevent flooding. The dams on the lower Klamath, however, were built for only one reason: hydroelectric power generation.
Hydropower dams can store water and then release it when power production is needed.
In this system, water is released and flows downhill. It then hits turbine blades and spins them. The turbines convert this kinetic energy into electricity. Since the water isn't used up in this process, hydropower is a renewable source of energy. It provides the world with about 1/6 of its total electricity.
If we want to produce power that is renewable, you're going to have impacts. You're blocking the ability of fish and other species to be able to move around.
But obstructing fish passage is only one of the unintended consequences caused by these artificial structures. The river's natural flow of sediment is disrupted by dams, starving downstream ecosystems of healthy nutrients.
A river is a living system, and dams interrupt that living system. If somebody put a barrier and blocked the flow of blood through your body, bad things would start to happen. And rivers are the same way. Sediment transports really healthy nutrients downriver. When we block a river, we block all kinds of important processes that are not just keeping the environment healthy, but keeping our communities healthy too.
The food chain depends on sediment transport.
Sediment deposits nutrients onto lands, which builds deltas that protect our coastal communities.
River deltas can create fertile vegetation, which acts like a sponge, helping to prevent flooding.
Much of our agriculture is along rivers, not always because of water, but because those are some of the most productive soils anywhere on the land.
Dams also obstruct the river's current, causing disastrous effects on water quality and temperature. Summer heat exacerbates the warming of stagnant water in the reservoir.
The warmth of the water results in the production of this cyanobacteria. It kind of looks like a blue-green algae. And when you look at the reservoirs created by the dams, it just looks wrong. They're glowing with this kind of blue-green phosphorescence.
This toxic algae is not only harmful to fish.
But this algae also has a neurotoxin in it. It's hazardous to our health. Once the algae is produced in the reservoir, it doesn't stay there. That water, as it's released downstream, it affects all of the ecosystem down below as well. And that's why dam removal and dam construction isn't about a small area.
In fact, the impacts can be felt on a global scale. Dam reservoirs play a significant role in creating destructive greenhouse gases.
In a reservoir, some of what we're storing is organic, living matter that washes off of the land. It is fundamentally compost. It needs to decompose. When it decomposes in a reservoir, it can release a gas that contributes to climate change, and that gas is methane.
Methane is a greenhouse gas that's somewhere between 25 to 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide for warming the atmosphere.
Globally, dam reservoirs emit more than 11 megatons of methane per year, about the same as the annual methane emissions from 100 million cows. In addition to environmental concerns, there are significant issues with the ongoing maintenance and safety of dams, and thousands are in poor or unsatisfactory condition.
Dams, as they age, they decay. As a result, many dams become public safety hazards.
The American Society of Civil Engineers grades the state of our infrastructure. America's dams got a grade of a D, and primarily because we have not been investing in their maintenance.
As weather becomes more extreme, aging dams pose a potentially lethal hazard.
Climate change is increasing the frequency and the size of floods in most parts of the country. Most dams were built for a previous time when the floods weren't as big and weren't as frequent.
In 2017, the main spillway of the 48-year-old Oroville Dam in Northern California failed, threatening the lives of people living downriver.
State water officials ordered the immediate evacuation of 188,000 people, triggering chaos as families jammed roadways out of Oroville.
Emergency teams sprang into action and were able to repair the damage, averting total disaster.
There have been many dam failures all around the country that have resulted from inadequate structural safety or inadequate spillways.
While many dams are useful, their impact must be carefully weighed. When the harm they cause exceeds their benefits, they should be removed.
Dam removals eliminate public safety hazards, they provide for fish and wildlife, and they help with restoring cultural injustices.
Oh, mountain stalling will stop the dam from falling.
At the time the dams were built here, there simply was very little acknowledgement of the long-term implications. The construction of dams has blocked the Klamath River. This is the end of the road for migrating salmon.
These structures have decimated local fish populations, severely affecting local communities and businesses. And today, they generate only a small amount of electricity.
The rating of the 4 dams is on the order of 160 megawatts, enough to power several thousand homes. The loss of the power that they produce is not expected to have any impacts on the Western electric grid.
In fact, the usefulness of these dams has been outweighed by the cost to maintain them. So the dams will be removed.
12 weeks, 14 weeks, something like that.
Mark Bransom oversees the Klamath River Renewal Corporation, tasked with removing the 4 dams and restoring the river and the impacted land.
Removing the dams is a small step toward the overall restoration and rebalancing of the Klamath River.
This is the largest dam removal project ever undertaken in the United States.
It's much more complicated to build dams than it is to remove them. This is a relatively straightforward project.
In the fall of 2023, COPCO 2, the smallest of the 4 dams, was removed.
By October, early November of 2024, we will have successfully removed the remaining 3 dams and restored healthier conditions in the lower Klamath for the first time in over 100 years.
But dam removal is just the first step in the process. Restoration crews will work in the area for years to help the environment heal.
The idea is to give the ecosystem a little bit of a jump start.
When we put dams on a river, we have drinking water, these sprawling cities in floodplains, power for our homes that is not fossil fuel based. That's all because of dams.
These dams on the Klamath played an important role when they were first constructed, and that role is no longer important. Removing them is an opportunity for us to restore balance.
We will watch a living river that adapts itself to its environment and finds how it can work in a way that's strong and resilient with the land around it.
As the dams are removed and the restoration takes hold, there will be hope for healing on the lower Klamath River.